Day 65 of 365 days of realizations. Trina Wright here. Today I want to talk about resistance. So, resistance or offness. I mean, contrast kind of falls into that, but I think that there's a little more, it's a little different. It's a different kind of thing, contrast. So let's stick to this idea about resistance. So all resistance that we experience, all times that we feel offness, is simply calling us back to alignment, calling us back to getting back in the vibe of our inner being. When I have spoken before about like, what would your inner being think about that? What would your inner being say about that? What would your inner being's thoughts be about that? That's the call. Like, you have stepped out of that beautiful place of alignment with the fullness of who you are. And so it doesn't feel good. Simply, that's all resistance. Doesn't matter if it shows up in the body, doesn't matter if it shows up as an emotion, doesn't matter if there is the most stressful, strainful, complicated story attached to it, because that's one of the interesting things. The resistance shows up to tell us to get back into alignment, to tell us that whatever you've got going on or whatever you've had going on for the last little while, depending upon how strong the resistance is saying, just like the gas gauge in your car, you're running out of fuel. You are moving in a direction that is not with source. You are out of attunement with your inner being. You are stepping into the territory. It's not unsupported, because you're always supported by source. Source is always right there flowing to you and through you. But you are looking in a way that you're not receiving that sourcing. You're not receiving that fullness flowing, that feeling. And so if you continue down that path, it's probably not going to go well. And then it's going to show up as what we call a contrasting experience, a contrasting circumstance, which is going to then require more and more and more to sort of come back to it. Because the more that we add story, the more that we add description, the more that we try to explain the feeling of resistance that we have on whatever level it has shown up, whether it is just simply clean and clear, conscious as a spiritual being, recognition that you are out, that you are off, that you are experiencing this resistance, or whether it's a physical pain in the body, whether it manifests as something in your actual environment. Like, no matter what level of it is, the more that we add the story to it, the more it's going to take us, the more it's going to, in essence, have us. And what I find really interesting is it is hard not to do that, isn't it? It's hard not to do it, and it's hard to own our creatorship every single moment of the time. It's hard not to look around for something to sort of blame for that feeling. And it's partly because that's what we've been trained to do. We've been trained to externalize our experience, to take our cues from what's going on outside of us, and to disvalue this, to disvalue the experience of our inner essence. I don't mean like our body. I don't mean like going inside of your body, even though that's the reference point that seems, to me, it feels more like it's like, back and behind, above and around, beyond. It's like the container that holds everything. That's what we're being called to. I love this. I love the feeling of the wind calling me, just calling me back to that. And so when we can step back into that clarity, to that knowing, to that fullness, then we're not on this leading edge alone. We have the fullness of source backing us up, calling us forth, moving things. And it's so interesting. So the other piece is that all resistance, all offness is coming from that. It's coming from that need for you to see it. But even prior to that, it is coming from the reality, which there is no reality, but the truth in that moment, that you are emanating a vibration of something that you want to have, experience, a desire, something that you are not keeping up with, that you are not allowing. So you have a desire, but your beliefs are getting in the way. Your beliefs cannot allow it. And because they can't allow it, it means that you feel this offness. Because remember, your inner being has immediately gone to the place where that desire has already been realized. That desire has already been fulfilled. That desire has already manifested. So what I think is really interesting is Where do you want to put your focus? Do you want to put your focus on the aspect of yourself that wants to keep up with that desire? Or, you hear these teachings that say, be one with your desire, be in the vibration of your desire. Like, you want that thing, well, get in the vibration of the you that has that thing, the person you that has that thing, or the vibration of what that creates for you, like a sense of freedom or love. And all those things are great. What's interesting though is, this is really cool. What if your vibrational point of reference became your inner being? So, we're always emanating a vibration. What if the emanation of the vibration was my inner being? So I am emanating alignment. That's the only thing that matters. I am emanating alignment. Have all the desire I want, have all the contrast I want that brings me to deeper and deeper desires. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't even need to think about those desires because the universe is taking care of that. I am going to put all of my energy into attunement with the truth of who I am, with attunement with my inner being. Stand in that, because guess what? Our inner being has its own vibration, has its own emanation of vibration. So the inner being and I together swirl together, and you, the person you, the source you, the inner being you, swirl together to create this emanation. We're the only things that can ever block the emanation from being the most perfect representation of our next deepest expansion, our next deepest expression, the fullest, most expanded us that is matching up with all of those things. So if we made that simple shift and just shifted our attention to making alignment with our inner being, connection with our inner being, attunement with our inner being, seeing it the way Source does, seeing it the way whatever we want to see it, all the positive aspects that we could come up with. So see it as worthiness would see it as doubtlessness would see it as joy would see it, as bliss, as our inner being, as our higher self, as God, as Source, the creator, whatever you want. Attune to that, and then let the universe respond to that attuned vibration that now you're sharing in alignment with your inner being, which is the same thing. It just, if we practice this all the time, if we really do understand that we have an inner being that is here for us, that is based and backed by Source, that is purity in that, pure, pristine love, divine light, truth, the purest of truth, the undiluted truth, the unco-opted, pure, pristine love, infinite bliss, unendingness, joyous exuberance, all of those things, satisfaction. If we knew that so fully, then there would be nothing except aligning up with all of that and the fulfillment of every desire that we have, the manifestation of everything that we have. And when it's backed not only by that attunement, not only by that alignment, but expectation, because now we're standing in that place of doubtless, and not only backed by expectation, but also backed by the clarity of knowing that I am the creator, that I have this creatorship, and that through that creatorship, I get to fine-tune my desire, which is bounced back by the universe as the reflection point that I get to witness. Because that's all it is. In every single moment, we are simply witnessing our creation. And the resistance that we have when we see a creation that we don't like bogs us down. It takes us out of that attunement, and then it messes up potentially more and more and more of our creations. Sometimes it's all of it's beautiful. It doesn't matter how it goes, but sometimes we do this. We create this out of alignmentness because we can't come into resonance with something that we think we want. So in that way, it will come up anyway. I mean, if you attune into your inner being with this, but you're still filled with this strong desire that you don't think is achievable, or you don't believe is possible, or you have some limiting beliefs about, don't worry, they'll show themselves anyway. And that's part of the learning, part of the process. How do I fine tune? How do I fine tune? So that's going to happen anyway. But if you take the reflection from your circumstance as the work that you are being called to do, it changes everything. It makes the whole experience different. It's what we came for, to create parts of myself, parts of my mind, parts of this essence that is me, because I'm made up of all these different parts, to create that outside of myself so that I can see it and figure out what needs to be cleaned up. So if you practice attunement, if you practice reaching for alignment in every given moment, for most of the time, that will probably close the gap. If it doesn't, then whatever needs to be, or whatever is hindering the closing, will probably become available to you, become visible, may result in some resistance, but that's okay, because now you know what it is. And resistance in and of itself isn't bad. Not only is it not bad, it does not mean that you are not awakened. It does not mean that you are not enlightened, because the enlightenment comes in that you saw it, that you knew it, that you didn't get bogged down by it, that you weren't living unconscious, that you were consciously making decisions about what you want to vibrate, how you want to vibrate, how you want to see, what you want to choose. That's realization. That's understanding yourself. That's knowing who you really are, which is in essence the basis of enlightenment, the basis of being a component of the creative process. I'm not creating by default. I'm creating deliberately, in attune with all that is, with source, with my inner being. So just because we have a tiny bit of resistance, just because something comes up that we witness and we fine tune it and we fine tune it and we fine tune it and we empty and we empty and we empty, we're emptying of all the things that we're bringing to the moment that we don't need to bring. Things we picked up on our trail when we didn't know that we were creating everything, when we bought into the idea that we needed to externalize ourselves, that what's outside is what really should take our attention and should validate us and all that kind of stuff. So no big deal. We just realized that that's where it was. We're not going to carry that with us anymore. We're going to empty out our backpack, take all that past stuff, all those held beliefs, everything, just dump it out. Maybe just leave the whole backpack there so that we can't pick any more up, and then just continue going. So I invite you to consider this, to just look at how much easier it would be if all we had to do was attune to our inner being, develop that relationship, and not get hung up on needing to fine tune the actual desire unless it's relevant, because it is relevant probably a lot of the time. But like, say for abundance, say for money, I want to manifest more money. I want to feel more money flow. Because I ultimately want to feel freedom. But when I step into that freedom feeling and it's attached to money, that maybe wobbles me right away. So then I reach for just pure alignment, and I sit with that, and I sit with that, and I sit with that. But I got this niggling thing in my mind that still says, I don't have enough money. I don't know how I'm going to get the money. So, okay, I'm not able to fine tune with that. So then I go in and I say, what is those limiting beliefs? How can I move through them? What do I need to do to shift them? One of the best ways, as we've talked about before, is, would your inner being hold those same thoughts about your lack of abundance or the lackfulness that you're engaging in? Or would your inner being see it differently? Can you move into the very thoughts, the very ideas, the very constructs that your inner being would live? What do you have to tell yourself to get there? What would it take to move you to that place? Quickly. Just step into that and see, and then come back into the fullness of all that you are. And then expect in whatever way is going to show up, without a time frame, without a how, just an expectation that good things always find me. Everything's always working out for me. I know that I get my desires. I know that what I get out comes back in the perfect reflection, because that's the creation of this universe. And I was never supposed to be bogged down by the resistance of my belief. I'm here to just be a creator. So I'm going to step into that and step into that and step into that and just keep playing with it. So anyway, fun little way to look at things. I think it always serves us to try to see things differently than we've seen them before, because that's where expansion comes from. That's why we're here, to grow and learn. So have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.